beef with me. Yo, y'all over there at JBP, I don't care. She can't talk. Shorty's a whole scammer. I got a list of clientele who they trying to spin the block on you. You know what one person said? Yo, Act, I don't want to come on stream to talk to this scamming ass. I want to file a lawsuit. Just fund it for.
Hold up. Akademiks goes straight at Mona with a run of sharp, calculated shots. And listen to this. It clearly marks a new level in the back and forth between two of the most powerful voices in urban media. Girl, this didn't come out of nowhere either, because it all traces back to earlier moments when Mona openly made her opinions about Akademiks loud, public, and impossible to ignore.
Akademiks, as big as his mouth is, you're going to say something about that being little because it's funny. Especially his build. He already built like a baby mom. I'm not a big fan of people that are like not in the streets at all, doing all street content. I just don't.
Mona, like plenty of people before her, had a clear problem with Akademiks. And listen to this, she wasn't shy about it at all. She took issue with how he covers street topics while not actually coming from that life. And girl, that part really rubbed her the wrong way. This wasn't some new or shocking stance either, and she repeated this same point on the show again and again. Once more, she chose to say it disrespectfully, calling out his weight, mocking his manhood, and even comparing him to a chicken nugget. You won't believe it, but it was straight personal shots and nothing but ad hominem attacks. And hold up, as time passed, Akademiks initially kept it light with Mona and didn't jump into one of his usual long, heated rants.
Crazy outside of her mouth. I ignored it like 3.
But listen to this. Last night, Akademiks crossed lines that honestly, there's no walking back from. He went as far as playing Tony the Closer's recorded call, where Mona is heard opening up about her health struggles and making admissions tied to scamming.
So many people, keep in mind, this is a drug addict and a crack whore. You having a stroke and 2 seizures, beefing with me?
This part got heavy because Mona was heard saying she suffered a stroke and didn't want to pass away still owing anyone money. That's dark, honestly. And while it's uncomfortable to hear, it also raised questions for some people about whether scamming was really happening. Akademiks then took it further and claimed he would even bankroll a lawsuit for those who say they were scammed by her. Now listen, I don't actually see Akademiks following through on that, but it does create an awkward situation for Joe Budden, who platforms Mona while also being in that weird friend-enemy space with Akademiks. I can't help but wonder where their relationship really stands, but it feels more business-based since neither of them truly goes nuclear on the other. Things escalated again when Akademiks labeled Mona a drug addict. That's a direct hit at her character. And to be clear, I have no idea if there's any truth to that claim. Some viewers have said she comes off on the show as very jittery and all over the place. Maybe that's just her personality, but Akademiks leaning into that angle is something people are definitely going to watch closely. And like he's done many times before, he also went straight at questioning Mona's actual value and contribution to the Joe Budden podcast.
It's intolerable these days. Because I can't listen to Shorty. She dominates conversations with anecdotes that I don't care about. A lot of times, I like to listen to Ice because he's at least giving a realistic music perspective. Ish gives life perspective. Joe, he's everything. Flip, comedic relief. Parts, my boy, he got really technical. I like that. This bitch just come with a bunch of like blabbermouth, sloppy shit. I'm like, what the fuck is going on, man? Gotta cut it up. Skip.
Now listen, here he's clearly leaning into the idea that Mona is hurting the listening experience, supposedly at the expense of other voices on the show, like Ice, Flip, and Ish. What's interesting though, is Akademiks never brings up Mark at all, even though Mark is another Joe Budden podcast member he's had real smoke with before. I actually think that omission is intentional and pretty smart on Akademiks' part. When you're really trying to get under someone's skin, you don't always attack them directly. You go after how they earn their spot and how they get paid. You tap into the stories people already believe about them. This is the same playbook he ran with Rory and Mal. Think back to that era when Akademiks kept hammering points like, "You're not an owner.
"You're not a boss." He'd frame it as them being under Joe, living off Joe's name, clouded Jason at best. That's just what Akademiks does, and if you're not mentally ready for that kind of attack, it can really get to you. So now the real question is whether Mona can handle this level of verbal pressure. Maybe she can. Maybe she'll even choose to step back and disengage, but only time will tell. I've watched Akademiks long enough to know this tactic hits the hardest when it comes to Mona. Just like with Joe Budden, the narratives Akademiks pushes tend to stick and spread fast online. Another important thing to understand is that Akademiks is almost certainly watching the Joe Budden podcast subreddits and other forums closely. He pays attention to what fans are saying and then turns that into ammo. I don't think he's pulling these talking points out of thin air. He's reading message boards. He's reading Reddit threads. He's clocking complaints about Mona being long-winded. People say she dominates conversations, she cuts others off and doesn't pass the ball. Anyone who watches the show can see it, but Reddit is where those critiques get broken down in detail. That's where fans explain why they feel it's hurting the show. And one last thing worth noting is that earlier on, Mona actually addressed Akademiks in a much more measured way. That response was very different from her original comments about him.
To that big, thick stud Akademiks, y'all got me f***ed up. Well, I wish I would. Look how you called me a scammer, you're a rat. Look how you called me a scammer, you ratting in your comeback. Your comeback is radish. You fat, rat, stinking. You go to events, you can't even be the scene, you gotta be in the background. You come to the events when you come to the events through the back and sit in the back with everybody that's sitting in the back because you can't sit in the front because you scared me because you I like going back and forth with a say it to my face.
One thing that felt off in her earlier response was her accusing Akademiks of going back and forth with a woman. That didn't sit right with me. Because listen, she was actually the one who sparked this whole verbal tennis match in the first place. She lit the match, and now that the fire is coming back her way, it feels like she's suddenly looking for an exit. But hold up, we'll see if she responds again after this wild rant. I also can't ignore the fact that Mona isn't really bringing any fresh thoughts about Akademiks and is instead recycling the same talking points we've already heard. My guess is Mona might try to leave this alone, but knowing Akademiks, he's the type to keep firing and negative headline about her pops up and label her whatever her critics already call her. But let me know what you think in the comments. As I was listening to all this, I couldn't help but think, wow, this has escalated fast into something way bigger than it started as. What began as a playful, you shoot at me, I shoot back moment has now turned into a situation where people are going to have to pick sides. And yes, people are absolutely going to have to pick sides. The main person I'll be watching closely in all of this is Joe Budden. Will he publicly stand 10 toes down with Mona, or will he quietly back her behind the scenes and make that call to Akademiks to smooth things over? Or pull off some kind of, power move. Actually, that's not the right word. I'm really thinking of a word that means peace, some sort of truce that lets everyone move forward without more shots being fired. Because one thing I do remember is when Mona and Tony the closer went at it, she didn't exactly come out looking like the clear winner. The only reason it may have felt that way is that Tony is more niche and doesn't have anywhere near the audience of the Joe Budden podcast. A lot of Joe Budden's audience doesn't even watch Tony the Closer. And honestly, a big chunk of Joe Budden's audience doesn't really care if Mona's a scammer or not. They're more like, cool, but can you deliver on the show? And in that sense, plenty of people genuinely enjoy Mona. So again, let me know what you think in the comments. I find this whole situation fascinating.